We are only a week away from finding out which films are going to be nominated for the Academy Awards. And the category I'm most excited about is, of course, the Best International Feature Film category, in which 89 countries have submitted films, and they have been whittled down to a 15-title shortlist. So it will be whittled down again from 15 titles to just 5, and then it will be decided who is the winner for the Best International Feature Film Academy Award. In this video, I'm going to see how likely each of the 15 titles may feature in that final 5 nominations. I'll be doing this by looking at how each of the 15 films have been doing in the international awards circuit, and whether they've got the momentum and hype in order to feature in that final 5 nominations list. In this video, I'm going to rank them from 1 to 15 based on how likely they are going to feature in that final 5 nominations list, with a category which looks likely, the top 5, a middle category which is the maybe category, which there could be a bit of a surprise, and then the bottom 5 which are unlikely or definitely will not feature in those final 5 nominations. And a big caveat of this video is the fact I am not reviewing the content of these films, as I have not seen them all, but I've seen most of them. I'm purely basing it upon hype of the films, how well they've been doing at the awards ceremonies, which determine how well they do at the Oscars, and have they got the momentum to push through to that final 5 nominations, or will their journey end in this awards season at the shortlisting phase? I will, of course, look at how their country has performed in this category in the past and see whether they're on a path of momentum of continuously submitting films that does well at the Academy Awards. And if you want to see some of my thoughts of these films, follow the race for the Best International Feature Film Academy Award, or just have a great interest in world cinema, please do subscribe to my channel, Global Film Pool. So let's have a look at that shortlist and see who are going to be the final 5 nominations for Best International Feature Film Academy Award. So the shortlist comprises of 15 titles from across the world, and I'm going to have a look at each one and look at how well it could do and whether it could make that final 5 nominations. And the order I will do it will be by alphabetical, based upon the country of the film that has been submitted. And this is a reminder, this is not my personal reflections of the content of each film, more a look at how well it could do and whether it will be nominated for the Academy Award. So first up is Brazil, and it's I'm Still Here. Fernando Torres winning a Best Actress Award at the Golden Globes pretty much cements Brazil's place in the final 5 nominations. The film has won loads of awards, including 3 at the Venice Film Festival, where it debuted. This film has been a rejuvenation of Brazilian cinema, because you have to go back to 2007 since Brazil was last featured on the shortlist for the film When My Parents Went on Vacation. And in their history, Brazil have had 4 films that have received the nomination stage. And you have to go back to 1998, where they were nominated for Central Station. So Brazil have not received a nomination in this category this century. So it's fantastic I'm Still Here has a huge potential to make in that final 5. And for me, they have the possibility of causing an upset and actually winning the award for the first time in Brazilian history. And if I was a betting man, I potentially would put money on this winning the award once the final 5 have been announced. I would therefore put this as the second favourite to get to the nomination stage. It's pretty much a shoo-in for it to be in that final 5 and potentially could challenge for the award itself. Second on the list is Canada's submission, Universal Language. Now, this has done really well with critics, winning a prize at Directors' Week at Cannes Film Festival, as well as a directing prize at the Toronto Festival. Canada last featured on the shortlist in 2016 with the film directed by Xavier Dolan called It's Only the End of the World, a film I happen to love, but was very divisive with audiences. Actually, have to go back further in time since Canada's last Oscar nomination for 2012's War Witch. However, they went between 2010 and 2012, having 3 consecutive nominations, which was a great period of fall for the country, including films by Denis Villeneuve. And Canada's only win in the category was in 2003 for Barbarian Invasion. I don't think this film will challenge for a nomination position. It's an absurd this comedy, which might not necessarily hit the humour of different voters, and it hasn't necessarily got the awards pedigree for some time. People aren't talking about this as a potential nomination. So I think it will struggle to make that final 5 nominations. And for this purpose, I will put it down in 11th place. And the third film is from Czechia called Waves. This was perhaps the biggest surprise on the shortlist, as it doesn't have necessarily a huge amount of awards pedigree. It's not picking up nominations or awards at the key international film festivals, and it hasn't featured in the big award ceremonies such as the Golden Globes. So the fact it's made the final 15 shortlist is purely down to word of mouth. Since becoming an independent country, Czechia has done okay at the Academy Awards. They've had 2 shortlisted films, including 2019's The Painted Bird and 2020's Charlatan, directed by the legendary Agnieszka Holland. They actually won the award in 1996 for Koila. I think it's a bit of a surprise Waves has made that final 15 shortlist, so I don't see it really being in contention to get a nomination. I will therefore put it in 15th place, but it's hopefully a good start for the rejuvenation of Czech cinema, and we hope to see more great Czech films which make at least the shortlisting phase. And now the fourth film, which is from Denmark, called The Girl with the Needle. Now this is a devastating yet beautiful film, and you can find my personal review on my channel, and this to me would be my favourite to win the Academy Award if it was up to me. It's a technically brilliant film, yet it has not at all featured in the technical category shortlists at the Oscars, which to me might remove it from the competition to get those final 5 nominations. I also think it's a harrowing film, and people might find it a little bit too tough to watch, which might deter voters from voting for it. However, Denmark has such pedigree, you can never rule them out. They are the second most successful country in the last 10 years in this Oscar category, and this has included the win for another round. In fact, there's only been 2 years they haven't made at least the shortlisting phase. In fact, they've won the Academy Award 4 times and have received an additional 10 nominations in the Best International Feature Film category. Despite its harrowing nature and its difficult topic matter, this might struggle to make that final 5 nominations. However, it is a beautiful film, and Denmark are so good in this Oscar category. Therefore, it will always be in contention. And I'm going to put it in 7th place in terms of it's most likely to make that final 5 nomination. I don't think it will, but it's in contention of getting there. The 5th film I'm going to look at is from France, and it's called Emilia Pérez, the most controversial submission this year. There's been a lot of criticism on social media of the way it portrays trans issues or its artificially created stereotypes around Mexico and cartel gangs, etc. However, it won 2 awards at Cannes, including the Jury's Prize, and it did really well at the Golden Globes. So it's really got the momentum in this category in order to win it. And perhaps this is the best chance France have had since it last won the award in 1991 for Indochine. France are considered a powerhouse of world cinema, so it's quite shocking France haven't won the award for 30 plus years. And this is often because they choose the wrong film. It's almost comical how they've managed to do that. And it feels this year is the year they choose the one most likely to win, regardless of the quality of the other French shortlisted films. France have won the award 12 times and have had staggering additional 25 nominations. However, if you look at the last 10 years, they have only had 2 nominations for Les Miserables and Mustang. They remain the firm favourite to win. However, it depends on how much of the social media backlash gathers pace with voters and whether they're influenced by it all, because often social media backlash is not actually reality, and it's a small number of people being very, very vocal. As I said previously, there is scope for Brazil to be the shock winner because it feels they're starting to gather momentum with the Golden Globe Best Actress award-winning performance. However, I would still say Emilia Pérez is a strong favourite, and I will put it number 1 in terms of most likely to receive a nomination. At number 6 is the German submission, The Secret of the Sacred Fig. Now, at the Cannes Film Festival, this became an early favourite because of the quality of the film, but also the story about the director fleeing Iran, Mohammad Rasuluf, and him having to take residency in Germany, which it received post-production, and received a special prize at the Cannes Film Festival, and has since then often featured in various international awards, Best International or Best Foreign Language nominations. However, doesn't seem to be appearing to win these awards. When it debuted at Cannes, there was an assumption it would not feature in the race because obviously it's Iranian and the Iran government do not like this film and see the director as someone who needs to be arrested. So it was very, very, very unlikely Iran would even consider it as their Oscar submission. However, due to the fact Germany did the post-production, which is enough to consider it creative contribution, and therefore Germany selected it over the film Dying as their official submission for the Oscars. The positive reviews and the story about the director has really helped firm it up as one of the key contenders for the nomination stage. However, I don't think it's got the momentum to actually win it. It would go against the results of other award ceremonies to suggest it would overtake Emilia Pérez and I'm Still Here. Much like Denmark, Germany do have huge pedigree and recent history at the Academy Awards. In the last 10 years, there's only been 2 years. They have not had a film at least shortlisted, and obviously winning a couple of years ago for All Quiet on the Western Front has helped their pedigree in the category. And that win was Germany's third win, which is actually quite low for such a country, but they're still one of the key contenders, and they are the most successful country in the last 10 years, which shows the huge pedigree coming out of Germany. They've had positive reviews. They've got a brilliant backstory with the director. Germany have great momentum at the Oscars, making The Seed of the Sacred Fig a clear favourite to make that final 5 nominations. And therefore, I would put them as third most likely to make that final 5 nominations. And the 7th film to look at is from Iceland, and it's called Touch. I'll be honest with you, I really hated this film. I found it really pedestrian and a bit bland. However, it's clearly captured an audience as well as voters for the Oscars to make that final 15 shortlist, despite it not having a big award-winning director or anything like that. And I'll be honest, I think it made that final 15 because it's got a big studio behind it. And it's a really accessible and watchable film, despite my criticism, which probably made it quite an easy watch for voters, which got it to the final 15. Iceland have only ever had one film that has received a nomination, which was Children of Nature. And in the last 4 years, they've had 3 shortlisted films, including Touch, but also Godland and the film Lamb. So it suggests Icelandic cinema is really starting to feature in the Oscar race. I think the film has overperformed to make that final 15 shortlist, and therefore I would put it as 14th favourite to make that final 5 nominations. Now, the 8th film is from Ireland, and it's the bombastic Kneecap. Another of my favourites from 2024. It has received multiple awards, in particular from Britain, so the BAFTAs and the BAFTAs it's got a fair few nominations, and it's also been shortlisted for Best Original Song for Sick in the Head. I think this film could be very popular with voters. The only deterring factor is the fact it, on the surface, might appear quite anti-British, and it depends upon the demographics of voters and whether they get a little bit offended by that. Although I feel the story's actually a lot more nuanced rather than just have an anti-British Republican sentiment. It's more looking at the realities of Belfast and its civil society. Ireland have only ever had one film nominated, which was only 3 years ago for The Quiet Girl, a beautiful film, very different from Kneecap, I must say. But they've also had a shortlisting a few years ago for Viva. I think this is showing a huge strength and emerging cinema from Ireland, in particular Irish language cinema. I'm going to be brave, and the fact they have been shortlisted for Best Original Song gives them a chance of being nominated here. I would therefore put Kneecap in 5th place in terms of most likely to receive a nomination. For me, I think they'll just scrape in. At number 9 is Italy's submission, The Beautiful and Poetic Vermiglio. The film being nominated for a Golden Globe and winning the Grand Jury Prize at the Venice Film Festival really puts it in contention of being nominated. Italy, of course, have the most wins in this category with 14 wins, and they have had 19 nominations. Their last win was in 2013 for The Great Beauty, and they had to wait until 2021 until they got their next nomination for The Hand of God, also by Paolo Sorrentino. So there was a good 7 or 8 years between their win and the next success at the Oscars. And of course, last year's Io Capitano got a nomination. So it seems that Italy are starting to pick up a bit of form again in this category. Italy have only ever had one film that has stopped at the shortlisting phase, which was in 2007 for The Unknown Women. So there's a tendency for Italian films, if they make the shortlisting phase, they are usually pushed towards a nomination afterwards. I love Vermiglio, but I personally feel this might be the second Italian film that stops at the shortlisting phase. I think it's ultra competitive, and I feel there's a lot of European films in contention, and I have a feeling there are stronger films or films with more momentum that will block Vermiglio from making that final 5 nomination shortlist. I would therefore put them as the 10th favourite to make the nomination stage. The 10th film is the animated film from Latvia called Flow. Flow has won over 50 awards, including the recent Best Animated Feature Film and the Golden Globes, which is a remarkable performance, and it suggests they are dominating the animation category this year. This probably means they are firm favourites to win the Oscar for Best Animation, but can that also translate into success in the international feature category? While it's relatively rare for an animation to be nominated for Best International Feature Film, it has happened before. In recent history, Flea, which was Denmark's submission, got nominations for international documentary and animation. So there is precedent set there, but it's just very, very rare. There is also precedent of films that go on to win other categories, such as Ukraine's 20 Days in Mariupol last year, which won the Best Documentary category, did not get nominated for Best International Feature Film. So there is a good chance that Flow will succeed in the animation category, but then not be nominated for Best International Feature Film. This film is hugely historic for Latvia. It is their first submission that's ever made it to the shortlisting phase. So that in itself is a huge achievement. And the fact it's rolling over the competition across the award season for animated feature, this is huge success. So whether it makes international feature film category or it doesn't make the nomination category, it does not matter. This is a success for Latvia. However, for me, I feel the fact it's dominating the animated feature awards circuit means it could be a shoo-in for a nomination. So I'm going to put it as 4th most likely to be nominated for Best International Feature Film. The 12th film is from Norway and it's called Armand. Armand won a few prizes at the Cannes Film Festival and also won the Discovery Prize at the European Film Awards. One of the factors that helped secure its final 15 shortlist is the fact it's got Renato Rienvers, who was in the previously nominated Oscar film, The Worst Person in the World, also submitted for Norway. Norway have never won the Oscar, but they've had 6 films nominated in the past, including The Worst Person in the World, as well as having 2 films that have made the shortlist, including the previous year's Hope. I have a feeling this film will remain in the shortlist. It's an actress who has huge pedigree and is hugely talented and is hugely popular with voters. However, I feel there are stronger films with greater awards pedigree that will make that final 15 nominations. I will therefore put Armand from Norway in the unlikely category, and I would rank them as 12th most likely to get a nomination. The 12th film is from Palestine and it's called On Ground Zero. I think this surprised many people, the fact it made the shortlist, but actually I predicted it to be so. And it's partly because it's such a creative collection of short films from the creative talents that are trapped in the Gaza Strip and the horrific situation that's going on. For me, it was quite easy to see voters actually feel this is a really important film to show the devastation of the war at the moment, and therefore putting it into the shortlist helps raise the profile of this piece of documentary cinema. Palestine have had 2 previous nominations, including Paradise Now and Omar. However, you have to go back to 2013 since they last had a film to get to the nomination stage. Whether the motivation for Oscar voters exists also for On Ground Zero that it did in the shortlisting, there is an outside chance on Ground Zero makes that final 15 nomination, but I could see a situation where it does. So I'm going to put it in the maybe category and rank it as the ninth most likely to get nominated. The 13th shortlisted film is from Senegal and it's called Dahomey. This Mati Diop documentary has had a lot of awards attention. However, it doesn't seem to be translating in the bigger awards. And so I could see a situation where it gets a documentary nomination, but not necessarily an Oscar nomination. However, it won the Golden Bear at the Berlin Film Festival, which cemented its final 15 shortlisting place. And this is a film people have been talking about. So it thoroughly deserves its place on that final 15 shortlist because it covers really important matter. This is the 6th Senegalese Oscar submission and is actually the 3rd to make that shortlist. They've yet to get a nomination, but the fact they've had 3 out of 6 making the shortlist shows the huge talent coming out of Senegal. And 2 of 3 of those films have come from Mati Diop. So Atlantis and Dahomey are both directed by Mati Diop, but you've also got Félicité. I think the fact it's not dominating the documentary features awards race in other award shows suggests that maybe it's going to struggle to find its place within the Best International Feature Film category. But I would still say it's got an outside chance making the nomination. So I'm going to put it in the maybe category, and I would put it as the 8th most likely to make that final 5 nominations. The 14th film is from Thailand and it's called How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. Now, this has been a huge box office success in both Thailand and Southeast Asia and has really changed the nature of cinema from Thailand. So I can understand fully why it made that shortlisting. It has not been so successful on the awards circuit. It doesn't really feel like an awards film. It's more something domestic that has really risen through the ranks and becoming internationally marketable, which is how it's made that final 15 shortlist. How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies is an extremely likeable film and has a lot of mainstream appeal. And I think its success in the Oscar race will all determine by who the Oscar voters are and their understanding of Southeast Asia cinema and culture. And there, to me, this could be the surprise inclusion on that final 5. However, I don't think because of the awards pedigree, it will make that final 5, but it would not surprise me if it does. So as a result, I'm going to put Thailand's first ever film to make the Oscar shortlist a sick favourite to get nominated. And the 15th and final film is from the UK and it's called Santosh. The film has won a couple of British Independent Film Awards and have featured in the BAFTA nominations. However, it does feel that it's slightly been outshone by Kneecap, which suggests Kneecap's got more of a momentum. So between the UK and Ireland, I would definitely put Kneecap more likely to get a nomination. However, this is a great time for UK cinema that's not in the English language. Santosh was nominated with some awards. I believe On Becoming a Guinea Fowl could have been in contention to be the UK submission this year. And then obviously last year, The Zone of Interest, which was the UK submission, which won the award for the first time for the UK, shows the pedigree of non-English language films coming out of the UK and the interconnection between British people and the world, whether it's from colonial or ex-colonial ties, European history, or whatever it might be. There is some really exciting and emerging cinema, which shows the UK is finally being competitive in this Oscar category. However, I don't think Santosh has much momentum in terms of the Oscar race, and I'll be very surprised if it makes that final 5 nomination. I would therefore place it in the unlikely category and put them as the 13th most likely to get an Oscar nomination. So that is my rundown of the 15 shortlist for Best International Feature Film, and we will look forward to seeing which of the final 5 countries and films make those nomination places. So have you seen many of these films? What do you think of them? Who do you think will win the Best International Feature Film? You can find out more of the Best International Feature Film Oscar race by subscribing to my channel, liking this video, and putting a comment below of what you like about this year's International Feature Film Oscar race. Which films are your favourites? And which films do you think will win or be nominated?